some introductions. You know Sal, and Diana Lovett is our secretary. Hello, Diana. And Melissa Kaplan is a wonderful board member at the moment. And Nuno Perez is our managing agent and has been with the company that's been managing for a long time, but has recently become an owner of the company and has been managing us as the owner now for about a year. And you know who I am. And Barry, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be appointed to the board here.
Well, I originally applied to be on the library board, but that didn't. There was too many terrific candidates. So I said that was fine because that was interesting to me because it was technology. But anyway, so the esteemed Sabrina wanted to replace. You know, she had 3 openings, so she remembered that I had worked for Fisher Brothers in New York in commercial real estate for like 20 years. So something went off in her head, and then they called me up and they asked me if I'd be interested in the opportunity.
Okay.
So
are you presently working still?
Part-time, maybe. I've got odds and end jobs. I work for my old company, which was Judicial Title in Rye. I still work whenever they need me, and then I work managing money for people.
Okay, so
I take care of a woman who worked for me who's now has dementia, and she had a lot of money, so I became her power of attorney, and I visit her once in a while.
So is your training as an attorney?
No, a lot of people say that, but I'm a CPA.
CPA. Oh, somebody that knows numbers.
I'm a numbers person.
We need a person like that, right?
Yeah, but Nuno should be doing everything. You just should be checking it off. I see this and it looks good.
Yeah.
You know?
Nuno does everything.
That's right. That's how it should be. That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, those are the introductions. Anyone else want to ask Barry any more intimidating questions?
And yeah, I mean, I lived in Larchmont for 30 plus years. My kids went to the schools. I have a daughter that's a doctor, and I have another daughter who's a lawyer.
Okay.
So, and I have a wife who's a lawyer. She's a managing partner of a big firm in Manhattan. And, you know, like everything else, she's working 1 day a week in the city, and she made one of the bedrooms into an office. So she's cutting in on my peaceful situation at home.
Because you're mainly at home.
I'm mainly here at home. So this is what I do. I study a lot of Hebrew stuff. I have a personal rabbi. I study 3 nights a week, and I study a couple days a week. And I got into that like 10 years ago, and I really like that. It keeps me honest.
So you're are you a practicing Orthodox Jew or?
No.
No, okay.
I'm practicing, but I don't know. I'm I belong to Larchmont Temple, which is Reform, because my wife wants to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like I'm very active with Mendel and Chabad, and where his new building is, and this group called the Jewish Renaissance Experience. Like after this, I'll have a meeting with them tonight to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay,
a lot of little things keeping me occupied.
That's like a lot of us at this stage of life.
Right. Exactly. And I just had a knee replacement on September 15th, so I'm still.
Yeah, well, I've been avoiding that, but it's also what goes on at this stage.
Yeah,
the good thing we have all these other young people around us right now.
Yeah, well, I'll make everybody else work.
So,
right, Melissa and Diana, that's what I hear. You guys are going all over.
So why don't I I guess, sort of start quickly with approval of the minutes. Diana,
I didn't send them. I just realized that before. I will send them as soon as we hang up.
that's
So if you
what I
guys
was
want to,
just going to ask you. Where are we with the minutes? So,
I didn't send in the ones from June to the. I just like after we logged off, I usually like sit there and deal with it, and I totally forgot. So I sent them into the town, the ones from June that were approved in September, and I will circulate the September ones as soon as we hang up. Apologies. I was like, when I saw your agenda, I was like, yeah, I totally. So, sorry, I don't think there's anything too crazy in there, but if anyone wants any changes, just let me know. So.
and we're now current with the town, and everything's been they have all the minutes.
Yep, they have the minutes from June, and they have the notices and all that stuff. And I usually send them a copy of the video after LMC sends it to me, not like just out of an abundance of caution, but that's all up to date. So we're
Right.
up to speed on all that.
Good. Barry, the record keeping for the Housing Authority is all with the clerk of the town. All the records are there.
Okay.
And it's where the corporate book is. So
And Diana does the minutes for now.
Diana does the minutes,
Types them up, sends them in, sends them out,
right?
lets everybody look at it, approve it.
Circulates it, and then we approve it formally at a meeting. Our meetings have been as needed in a sense. We don't meet regularly every month. This time happens to be a month after last, mainly because we needed to start focusing on budget, which is what we're going to do. And also it's Sal and my last meeting. You will not have to put up with me after this. So I wanted to be around for the budget discussion in case our historical knowledge is helpful.
Can I interrupt with a question though at this point?
Yes.
Are the budgets on an Excel worksheet, or are they at Nuno's office, or does he prepare them, or who does variances and all that kind of stuff?
I prepare the budget on an Excel spreadsheet based off historical data and also year-to-date figures. I probably have, 20 years worth of budget, if you want, on the same spreadsheet.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I've had high tabs.
You do a monthly report?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, monthly report.
Bank rec,
Is,
accounts payable, accounts receivable?
that's all distributed on the 10th business day of each month, which typically the 14th or 15th. It's emailed. Currently, right now, I do more of a budget comparison and some minor,
Okay.
minor report given to Sal. But if you want the full package,
Yeah, I like that.
fine
Do
with
you,
me.
do you, so you do it by the 10th, you get the bank rec done by the 10th, everything? Who does the payroll? Who manages the payroll
It's
system?
all done through paychecks. It's outsourced. We have a 401k plan that the town matches a percentage of the superintendent's salary. That's
Yeah.
also done through paychecks. It's wrecked probably by the 4th or 5th business day of the month.
Okay.
And then there's some odds and ends that usually are, take some time, and then we batch mail them usually by the 10th business day. But yeah, Homix is one of usually the first reports usually done.
I mean,
Barry, you have one person on a payroll. You have a one-person payroll.
Oh, all right, okay.
All right. You'll get what Nuno does is he prepares a budget comparison on a monthly basis. So
Right.
you'll have in a sense, it's your budget, the actual, and you'll have your variances to budget, to kind of make sure that you're on track, basically. It's helpful.
Okay, well, and the income's pretty standard, I'm sure.
Mhm.
There's mainly one source, although there's a few pennies from a few others.
Yeah.
And that's the rent. I think the details of the operation, you'll get an opportunity to speak directly with Nuno about.
Sure. Okay, that's fine.
So Nuno, you indicated that, but let me just ask, other than financial stuff, is there anything the board ought to know about that's going on?
Nope. Everything that you guys approved last time is underway. The ejector system backup power replacement has already begun. They're starting that. I believe last week they're starting it. It should be completed by probably end of this week if everything goes well. The deck that's being worked on, not really mentioned in the last meeting, but we had an issue with some water penetration in a few apartments. That's been resolved. Unit 34 officially rented as of yesterday, and they'll move in on
Sorry,
the first.
can you go a tiny bit slower? I'm just trying to take notes, and so
I'm in a hurry. My apologies.
Okay, no, it's okay. I got the backup power system is being installed. The deck
Yep.
is currently being repaired, and then I lost you.
Okay. So the drip system that's in Louis' garage that powers the sewage pump that failed, that is currently being installed as we speak. There's a few of two issues with water penetration. Those have been resolved. Everything's repaired. Unit 34, that apartment was renovated, and a long-term tenant is moving from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom with loft. He's a local volunteer ambulance person that's been waiting for 12 years for this opportunity. So congratulations to him. The carpet in 22 is happening this week as well. She finally allowed access. And that was really the only outstanding stuff. The only also the apartment inspection and the boiler preseason tune-up, that is about 75 to 80% complete. I've been slowly reviewing all of the apartment inspection results. Some are very good. Some need some minor odds and ends. Spoke to Sal this morning. A lot of plumbing repairs are being conducted or will be conducted over the next few months.
You mean like leaky faucets and stuff, or more than that?
Leaky faucets, the piping, the pipes underneath the sinks and the vanities. Those are starting to go. We're replacing those with PVC. But it's minor odds and ends, some loose toilets, the usual stuff that comes up every year.
And Louis is doing that, right?
Louis is doing that as he goes
Good.
along.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So his goal is to get into every single apartment with Al, who's doing a pretty good job so far. Luckily enough, our boilers are in good shape. They have not deteriorated from last year. They're still in good working order, just some minor tune-ups that are needed, nothing major, which is very good news. And Louis, after the inspections are done, will schedule and coordinate repairs. There's no imminent, dangerous plumbing situations. If they are something that needs attention ASAP, he will do it same day. So those are all.
And is he back in the swing all right? A little better than you were moaning about, or?
I'd rather not say on a public call.
Okay.
All right, a question for Nuno. So last time we talked, and if you're going to get to this, that's fine. But we talked about the insulation in the crawl space vents, and you were going to look into a fix. And I know that you would kind of underline that as the most pressing issue. So is that going to be addressed as part of the capital needs? Or
that will be addressed part of the capital needs. Okay. It's also at the bottom of the budget, which I will discuss.
Okay.
So I've been working with Ralph, who did the repair on 116, on kind of standardizing the process of kind of working on all the vents. And I may, ask him to kind of test one to see if it works. And it's not an inexpensive process, but it's probably the best case solution, which is basically building a box around the existing vent, which would allow it to properly breathe. But it's something that, it's may not be the answer. It's something we have to kind of play with. The only other way is going to be almost impossible, which is basically cleaning out all the insulation from below it and doing a similar job to 116, which is not going to be possible. So I'm working on a solution with Ralph to hopefully build that supposed box with styrofoam and to kind of block it out.
Mm-hmm.
It may work, may not work.
And this is fine. We're transitioning to the capital stuff, which is what I thought would be useful to do before we look at the actual numbers in the budget. You mentioned the decking, and it's the first time I can remember talking about the issue with the back of Homick's facing the parking lot has a lot of wood decking, and is tell us about that.
Sure. I think I did mention in the last meeting that was something that needed immediate attention. And upon actually reinforcing the deck, we found that a lot of the bolts were literally just, you can move them with your hand. They're just coming off. Also, upon kind of reinforcing the deck, we found that the deck was actually put on the building and they didn't use any flashing. There was actually major gaps that I can send you some pictures on. And this major report I've been doing lately, it's not really ready yet because a lot of it's in progress, but I'll send you some pictures. It's actually pretty alarming. Over the years that actually there hasn't been any water penetration in those apartments adjacent to the deck, but they left like about foot wide gaps without any insulation. It just, all the water has just been going in there. So that was just kind of major discovery that we found there. Can the deck survive another year with the fixes that we're doing? Possibly, but the materials there are kind of reaching their useful life.
Mhm.
So it looks like part of the capital needs is a total replacement of the deck.
That would be next year, but if other capital needs present themselves as more of as an imminent need, we can certainly probably get another year out of it.
And is it safe now?
By Thursday, it would be safe. Remember that deck handles a lot of abuse. The supers use a snowblower on it, the shovels. It's 20-plus-year-old deck. It's not the best materials are used to build it. So it's definitely seen a lot of band-aids over the years. And we're just kind of sort of putting on make sure it's safe for the winter. We don't want anyone slipping or falling. But the way it is now, there was a lot of loose wood, and you could have actually just kind of jumped on it and probably fallen through it. So I'm glad it was addressed.
No, just to kind of follow up on that. So I'm guessing we're going to get down to that in the capital needs when we go over that. But what would you recommend like using as a material for the deck? If we were going to replace it, like
probably a Trex or a composite. And that would be the most, it's not the most cost effective, but in terms of maintenance and longevity, it might be your best solution. They're basically maintenance free. They last forever and they look good, and they handle a lot of abuse. As of right now, and I can't foresee the future, but Trex and similar products and also just pressure treated lumber in general, the price has gone up about 150% due to the pandemic and shortfall. So it's something that we have to consider if it's, the right time, but by the, summer of next year, if prices have really come back to normal.
I think, Diana, I particularly think the minutes ought to indicate that we discussed the safety of the deck and was relieved to hear that the repairs are being done and it'll be safe. I think just in case there's any issue with that, it ought to show that the board spent some time and attention and made a reasonable decision based on the information from the managing agent. Okay. So why don't you tell us before we step into the detail of the budget, what you think the major capital work is that should be in a capital budget now?
Sure. So I think the gas pipe replacement shortly after heating season should be something that we take care of. It's something that we're presently aware of. We were made aware of the pipe conditions, and it's in our best interests that we handle that shortly after heating season. And that's probably at least a major portion of the capital budget for next year. Another thing is the vents. We have to come up with the solution, and I'm going to test one vent out, report back if it works. Sabrina's here. And then I think that is something that we can do ASAP if it works. Another project would be possibly the deck, which is a large number based on the engineering report. And then in that report, and it's something that we should consider it's a safety issue. A lot of our steel railings and our steps, they've seen better days. A lot of them have a lot of rust on them. A lot of them are loose. I think that those should be, addressed. Some of them need to be re-cemented. Some of them need to be repainted. Some steps, maybe putting some treads on them because it does get slick in that area in the middle of the complex in the winter.
Mhm.
Those are some of the projects I know, at least the major ones that should be addressed. But the big one that I foresee is the ventilation in the crawl space. But I don't have a number on that yet because I don't have haven't tested out this theory.
Oh, we're losing you on, you're
For
breaking
these,
up.
it's the most cost.
Could you repeat what
Is
you
this
just
better
said?
now?
Yeah, now it's better. Could you repeat?
Yeah, my Wi-Fi in the office here is kind of, in and out. So the only item that I don't have a price on right now is the crawl space, the clearing out the vents. That's just really something that I have to work on to get. And I will present the idea, show you guys how it works, and kind of see if it's kind of something we can duplicate throughout the complex.
Sal, do you have anything to add to?
No, I think that was all. It was I guess the most costly is the gas pipe replacement. That's going to be about, I guess it was like 150,000, Nuno?
I think, yeah, the lowest bid was about 144,000.
Right.
That's for the remaining buildings.
Mhm. The deck, you're estimating at around 62,000
Yes.
with composite material?
With composite material, if the materials normalize.
Right, okay. All right, those are really the big things, I think, right?
Everything else is, just deferred maintenance, the railings and everything like that.
Mhm,
Yes.
Well, depending on the solutions on the venting, I guess, right?
mhm.
What I think we've never spelled out, which I'd like to ask be done. Well, before that, Diana had her hand up, and I was going to say, any more questions about the capital stuff?
Yeah, just following up, I guess, from last time, we had also talked about the appliance repair and the windows being worked into like a schedule. So that could be like done over potentially like multiple years. Is that, I guess, in your opinion, is that maybe not obviously it's not as urgent as the gas pipe issue, but like, do you think that we should kind of just, hold off on, adding that in for next year? Or do you still think it's important to kind of kick off that process?
I don't think the windows are fine. I think there's only 2 apartments now that need their window sills replaced. Me and the window vendor actually came up with a solution. Every apartment had this issue where the sill was warping, which let in water. We came up with a solution. It's relatively inexpensive, and it's basically saved a lot of leaks from occurring. I still think the windows should be done all at once and probably a 2022 project. And that's a very involved project for the board. It's, you're getting presentations from window vendors, seeing the materials. You're basically deciding on something that's going to be at the complex for 30 years. So it's not something that you should rush anyways. So that's probably a 2022 project, considering the window expense this year wasn't really that bad. And in terms of appliances, I think we're replacing appliances as we see fit. Usually most renovations now are getting newer appliances, and any appliances that are failing are the ones that are from like the mid 90s right now. But we haven't really seen ginormous requests for new appliances. We've been repairing a lot of these things to keep the costs down.
Well, Diana, you put your finger on close to what I was going to ask. I think just laying out what the estimated best estimates we could do of the capital work in which years, to see based on we have a little under 600,000 now in reserves, but some of that has to be kept for operating reserves. I don't remember exactly what the requirement is on the operating reserves. The MOU with the town has that. And so to see when we can afford to do what, just to lay it out over the years. So you have your items when they're done, and how much the reserve starts with at the beginning and how much you spend that year and how much you add to the reserve. Because part of it, yeah.
I can put that together, but it's going to be using the engineer's numbers, which may or may not be accurate.
Yes.
If that's, and I don't want to be held to it if the window project overruns by, but I will tell you that's what the projection of what the engineer is thinking.
Absolutely. No, these are ballpark estimates, but it gives which is often what you got to do anyway for the future. But in doing your operations budget, you're going to need to figure out how much you're going to have to feed the capital reserve as a contribution from the operating budget. And that affects what the rents need to be. So, right now we have nowhere near enough money in the reserve to do all of what you're talking about now.
Correct.
But we do have a big influx of money coming in when the bond gets paid off in a year or so. So there should be the ability to start contributing to the capital reserve, and maybe you can afford the windows in 2024 and not 2022. But it's that kind of planning based on the conservative numbers, which engineers usually have, that I think is going to be really critical for the authority right now. It needs a good deal of expense yet, and figuring out where that money is going to come from and when it's going to be there is what needs to be done in my mind. It's going to be yours to decide, but as a priority in terms of financial planning. So having talked about what those capital items are, let's talk about the budget. And well, Sabrina, welcome. Quietly snuck in here.
Sorry, I was late. We had a town board meeting that just ended a moment ago.
I'm delighted it was over in time for you to get here. So in terms of your massive spreadsheet with all the tiny little numbers that you sent us, I think we're basically looking at what the budget was, what the actuals are this year, and what your budget projections are
for the last 3 months. And then I have a draft, and I can go, I really don't want to bore you line item by line item, but I'll cover the major ones.
Yes.
Essentially, in order to actually have a balanced budget, we probably have to increase the rents that we currently at. Probably the last time we increased our rents was, I would think, 3 or 4 years ago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Mm-hmm.
Everybody should recognize increasing rents brings income in very slowly because it depends on turnover, right? Or it depends on how you want to do it. Yes, right. Is this assuming that everybody's rent goes up? It's only when the leases go up.
When the lease is, when you renew the lease, that's when we've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa?
So, I mean, I feel like now is sort of a rough time to be raising people's rents, considering sort of the context of what's going on with COVID and unemployment. And I don't know kind of the status of all the individual tenants, obviously, but, things are hard for people right now. So it seems like that's a tough one to pass it along to the tenants right now in particular.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I was saying it's critical to be able to plan what your needs are, because you do have this high influx of money coming in after the bonds are done, that you might want to use some of the reserves to get to before you raise rents now. But
yeah, no, I would agree, Rick, because I think, until we're kind of out of the woods with COVID, I think that should be a last resort, unless we have no other choice, but I certainly wouldn't go to that first.
But
That's fine, Melissa. It's just that whatever increase you want to do, it does take 2 years basically. So it's not as if we say, okay, we're going to raise everyone's rent by 2.5%, but only those that are renewed. So whenever you institute a particular percentage, it will take about 2 years to
I get
fully,
that.
yeah, that's it.
No, I totally appreciate that, but for the person who's, getting their lease renewal in the middle of this
No,
particular
no,
moment.
I agree with you. I agree. It does, the timing can be whatever you
Yeah.
want it to be. If you say, okay, look, let's hold off for a year, that's fine. But just as long as you realize that it takes about 2 years to kind of realize that revenue.
I realize even at a 2.5% increase, it's only about $4,000 worth of income coming in. It's not like a large amount.
Well, that's it. I mean, the impact on our bottom line versus the impact to somebody's day-to-day, kind of
Mhm.
their own personal budgets. If there's another way to do it, I would want to explore that.
So wait, I'm sorry, Nuno, you said the total, you just said the total number that would amount to?
Yeah, it goes from our revenue of 907,000 to 911,000.
Okay.
Considering you have a 2%, which is a very aggressive vacancy amount, it's only really a 0.5% increase in general in terms of income coming in.
Okay,
So-
I think I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing this, but you're saying that would increase from 907K to 911, but last time, Rick, I have in the notes that the bond matures in August of 2021, and that will net, additional revenue of 250,000 a year. So if we prorate that for Q4, you're looking at something like an additional 62,500. That would come into like the coffers of the account if that's a payment that doesn't need to be made. So, did I get that right, or did I miss a step or not follow along? Or is that all?
I didn't follow your last step of 62. What did you mean when you said that the last piece?
So I had in the notes from last time that the bond matures in August of 2021, and the bond payments have been $250,000 a year.
Right.
So if the bond matures in August, that means we won't be making any payments in Q4, September, October, November.
Oh, I see what right.
So if you prorate that out, that comes to 62,500. That's a lot more than the 4K and revenue increase from raising the rent. So I don't know, maybe I'm just missing something there, but
yeah. So Nuno, what in your projections did you have that as income or a less expense?
I would have to take that out of expense. It's not income.
Right. You have to. So are you assuming
that's the construction bond, right?
Yes.
All right, and you're saying that's at the end of?
I think it was 2021.
But
Okay.
was it October?
Well, what are you talking about the
when's the
debt
last
service?
When's the last bond payment?
August 2021.
Okay, and so I gather your budget, which I don't have in front of me, sorry, assumes a continuing budget.
I would have to adjust that, and
Yeah.
And so that's the one that we pay. Is it 20? It's two payments, one for like 24,000 and the smaller sum.
It's the $24,000 one. The smaller one is the 650 that we took out that runs through 2035. But the main debt service with the $24,000 that you pay each month is that goes away basically in August 2021.
Okay, and then so construction bond is made up of those two. So it's the 24,000 one is dropping, and then I still have in here that we will contribute the 50,000 towards the long-term reserve.
Is that line 22 in your budget, Nuno?
Yes, so that has to be amended
Okay.
to reflect only 8 months.
Right. So there goes the deficit. And we need to revisit the question of how much the capital reserve needs based on our prior conversation. Right now, I think you had in there, as you said, a 50,000 contribution from the operating budget to the capital reserve.
Correct.
Right. And so it would seem to me that after you do the spreadsheet we talked about on the capital reserve, you're going to need to make a decision about that contribution, whether 50 is enough, whether you want to do more so you can get the windows done sooner. But I don't, it sounds like the need for rent increase is definitely not there.
Okay, so I took that off of the budget. I just went as is, keeping the 2% vacancy allowance. So our income is basically staying. It's going to be a little less considering the interest rates are going down, so we're not going to make as much interest income, but that's going to relatively stay the same. Our ground lease is going up 1.5%. That's pretty standard. Our pilot goes up 3% every year. I did make that on line 22 for the construction bond. I have that only for 8 months. So that certainly helps our surplus. I will address the long-term reserve once I have that spreadsheet made. It's possible that in September of next year, we increase it as we have extra income or less expenses, actually. One thing that, salaries, it's been kind of, we did it the last 2 years or last 3 years with Louis. We've given him an increase in terms of salary. It's really your call. In this budget, I have a $1 per hour increase. It's really your call. If it's only every dollar that we give him is equivalent to $2,000 worth of salary. So it's really up to you guys if you guys choose to do that.
You want to have a little conversation about that? Anyone?
Sure.
As a budget item, what I see doing, just so I think this ought to be the meeting for conversation about the budget items. Nuno ought to go back and finish up based on the conversation, reissue a budget for approval by the board at a next meeting. Of course, this is October. If we approve a budget before the end of the year, we've accomplished something. So it's not that it has to be done today, but I think budget should take a reflection and be thought about over 2 meetings at least. So that's why I'm doing this today. And also, as I said, because Sal and I are available to you today. So any other, so the topic, there was a topic that you went very quickly over that I want to go back to, but let's talk about salaries. So his current hourly is what?
Pull that up. Hold on, I'll get you his payroll journal. I had it in front of me.
Is any reactions to the $1 increase to whatever it is now?
I just want to, I'd ask Nuno what the percentage is, year over year.
Still, I'm sorry, maybe this is just me, but so I have his, and I can wait for Nuno to come back. I am looking, at, I think I need a little bit of orientation in your spreadsheet because I'm looking at it and, the top, the income lines make sense to me and the expenses, some of it does, but I guess if you could just do 5 minutes to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly would be.
So we're doing item by item. I'm not sure, Diana, what you're driving at.
Do you want me to explain the headlines or the title of each line? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, just the specifically the the capital budget part at the bottom.
Okay. Oh, we'll get to that.
Let's get to that.
Okay. All right.
All right. Sorry. So, let's talk about the salary line.
He's currently at $22 an hour. Plus, we cover his health insurance and we make contributions towards his 401k.
Okay, so it's 22 an hour. If we were going to give him what, 3
we'll give them a dollar increase. It's basically there's 2,000 working hours a year.
Yeah, I'm thinking as Sal was, what's the percentage increase?
It's
So
$1 on 22, is that it?
Yeah.
So it's 5%? Is that a rough?
Yeah. About 4.5%.
Okay,
all right, well,
that's reasonable.
that's
I
reasonable
think.
for me.
I vote yes.
Mhm.
Melissa,
Yeah,
Barry?
no, I agree. I mean, I feel like he's done a lot of extra work again, over the past few months, keeping things clean and being really, kind of that sort of extra on top of all the usual stuff. And if we can afford it, I think there's no reason not to.
Mhm.
Okay, we're also recognizing that this would go into effect at the beginning of the year, not at this point, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Okay, the other thing I wanted to go back and make sure the board is focused on is the vacancy allowance. Every budget recognizes that some amount of rent will not be collected. It's called a vacancy allowance, which basically says that for some period of time, there will be some vacant apartments. It assumes that when apartments are not vacant, rent is paid. We do, as Nuno said, a very conservative vacancy allowance of only 2%, which means that we're assuming that we're collecting 98% of rents for the year. We have had a record where in the past that 2% was comfortable because we were really doing very well about rent collections and not having any problems. But it's worth focusing on now as we look at the budget for next year and not just slide over it, is what I'm saying, and decide whether that's an allowance that people are comfortable with, or should we? I mean, I've seen budgets where it's 10%, 5%.
Yeah,
2%.
I've seen 3 to 5, and I think that's probably what we're close to now. Considering on average, used to have 1 to 2 vacancies a year, and this year we've had a lot of vacancies and a lot upcoming that I know of. We're losing, people are moving out of the area, people are downsizing, people are moving in with their kids, whatever it may be. And I think I kept it at 2 just because it's the norm, but it's probably should be looked at and should probably be in the 3 to 4% range, considering the apartments we are finding now, especially the people where once they have lived there like 20, 30 years, they take a long time to renovate. You're dealing with a lot of repairs. It's not I was there a year or two, put some paint on it and throw it on the market.
Yeah. Yeah, let's consider just raising it because you got COVID here. People are going to have a tough time paying, so it would be prudent probably to raise it. Does everybody agree?
What is the percentage this year going to come out to? What percentage of the rent did we collect or project to collect?
I'll get you that on the follow-up budget to get you the exact figure. I have the tracking spreadsheet for vacancies.
Okay, I recommend that you guys consider at least 5%. I really think, given Diana's discovery of the money we now have, we certainly can afford it, I think. And it's not an expense unless it happens. But in terms of figuring a budget, I think we really ought to figure a smaller percentage of rent collected than we are now.
I would look at how many leases are up there coming up this year, and then determine how many of those are people are going to move out. Like as a percentage. So if you've got 10 leases coming up, and you say, well, we're going to lose 10% of those, and then how much it is to redo those apartments. I'd look at those kind of dollars and those kind of percentages.
Good point, Barry. The what it costs to redo the apartments are in the lines of the expenses, but starting with recognizing turnover.
Right, you got new appliances, you got painting, you got
Yeah, that's all in, should be in the budget lines for painting and appliances and stuff, which,
I don't know if it is. Yeah, okay. Well,
It's there. It's under apartment turnover.
oh, it is. You got a line that says that.
that. And just for historical purpose, people who typically live at Hommocks have usually waited on a long waiting list, or they're kind of there for the long haul. So I would say 95% of the people who get a renewal actually opt in for another 2 years. So we've had tenants there since the start. So it's we expect very low turnover. It just, the circumstances nowadays has caused people to kind of downsize or kind of eliminate expenses and move in with family members, so, or move out of the area. It's historically we've had 1 to 2 vacancies a year for 10 years, and this is the year where we're just getting a lot of people moving.
But I still want to know how many.
Opportunity to people.
Oh, sorry. How many leases are coming up?
I can tell you in a matter of a minute.
Okay, then you get increases on those amounts. Is that so?
Yes,
the income?
2 and 2.5%.
But that's in the income.
That would be projected in the income.
Okay, all right.
The majority of our leases expire 10/31/2021. The other half are going to be renewed in the next 3 to 4 months.
Oh,
They're done in batches for whatever reason. That's how it worked out somehow. But yeah,
that's probably how people moved in.
I don't know how it ended up that way. I know for a while there was, I think this probably 2 or 3 years ago, a large percentage of tenants weren't returning their leases, and we sent them all with a letter saying, please sign your lease or there'll be some legal action, and they all woke up. I think that was done in 2018. So that was part of the project that we had, and we didn't really, we're never going to take legal action, but we just wanted a current lease.
Oh, okay, fine.
yeah, there are different ways of coming at reaching a vacancy figure. And Barry's got one, and that's worthwhile looking at. And the other is to look at what we had this year. And so I think, again, with the idea that this is a discussion and not a decision time, if you can, I know you can, Nuno, take a look at, vacancies that you project, as well as what our rents against collections were this year, and give us a suggestion. But it should not be based on prior years to this year, because it's going to be more like this year than prior years.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Okay. So continue down, please, on major expense items. Diana.
Sorry, I just going. If we can go back up a few, just looking at the insurance. Insurance on
line 20.
Line 20, yeah. So you have for projected 2020 75, and then draft 2021 is 60. And I know last meeting it did go up from the year before. So I just you have a note for insurance broker, were they hey, you're getting a discount next year? What exactly happened?
No, we're in what we call a hard insurance market. Okay. So not only for your building insurance, but also your health insurance, you're seeing 8 to 14% across the board. So you'll see that the way that it's structured is we renew usually in September, and we put the large down payment, and then you just make incremental payments, and then you skip paying for a few months. But I did input that the insurance will increase next year. There's no way around it. It's been steady for a few years, but every insurance broker out there, even ours, which is McCool, has advised us in all of our budgets to at least put in a 10%. 10 to 14% is what they're seeing on all renewals in our metro area. The same goes for health insurance as well. That broker just told us it's going to be about 8% to expect and budget for 8.
For 2022, you mean?
For 2021.
2021.
Okay, but you, maybe I'm misunderstanding. In this, it looks like it's down because you have projected for this year 75K, and then for next year would be 50.
That's projected of that what we pay out.
Okay.
It's the way the policy works is you make installments, but you make a large down payment.
Okay, so there's like a bump at the beginning.
So we've already paid off last year some through September, and now we made a large down payment. Now we're going to make incremental installments. Then we have a few months where we don't pay anything, and then we make that large down payment again in next September, and that's how it kind of works.
Yeah, so this is based on the cash outlay and not the indebtedness. But it should, but this year, weren't we doing the same thing so that it should have this? I didn't follow why this year we also didn't have that same process of a lump sum payment the year before and installment payments as we go forward.
Well, I believe we were getting 2019 bills in this year, at least 2 months worth of. That's why the amount is so high.
Okay, so whatever happened this year, your projection for next year is based on a known policy with a 10% increase amount.
That's just an estimate. It's better to overestimate than to
Right.
lowball it. But
So-
that's based on the industry of what they're telling us.
Okay, so make a note to explain to the board why this year is higher.
Mhm.
Because it's a very good question. And make sure that way it isn't under budgeted.
Sure.
Thank you. Diana, can he go forward now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, that was very helpful.
Okay, so the health insurance, I put in a possible 8% increase per the broker. They're recommending to budget that amount. Health insurance premiums are going up throughout. Let's see. Another line item that was kind of a surprise was our water. We're using a lot this year, whether it's because people are home more or whatever it may have been. It was up. Hopefully people are back to work and not home all day by time next year. Kind of still giving an increase from our budgeted figure from last year, but we're set to you spend about $34,000 this year on water, which is extremely high. Let's see. Our gas and electric are locked in. We locked in when energy was cheap back in March. So they should stay, should be lower, but to be conservative, I kept everything the same. And also we did the LED upgrade. So that's been certainly helping our electrical usage. We were actually seeing those bills come down. So it was actually a smart idea to do. Let's see. Keeping window repairs about the same. I've only identified a handful of apartments that may need attention to their windows. I put in for next year a little bit of an increase on the repair and maintenance for the boilers because the older they get, the more attention and parts they're going to need. So just to be conservative, I just put in a little bit extra. I spoke to Al. He said they were healthy, as I mentioned before, but things happen during the season.
That's a very good. Yeah.
Let's see. Other things. Everything else was kind of stayed the same. Our landscaping is going to stay about the same. I think we got a lot of comments this year that our landscaping was actually probably the best it's been in a while. So the new landscaper is doing a good job.
Maybe he's using more water.
No, we actually had issues with our sprinklers for about a few weeks. So I was actually surprised to see that our water was that bad. But no, we did fix our sprinkler system. We had a few heads that were broken, and some of our system we had some issues with some of the sprinkler system. So, but we did remedy that back in July, and the grass and everything look a lot better. And we're getting into snow removal season, so I'll send the board out the proposal. We usually have a snow contract with the landscaper. And that's about it in terms of operations. So given the fact that we will have a less of a construction bond, we're going to keep the rents the same. I'll have to adjust our vacancy allowance, but it looks like we may have a surplus of about 103,000. So a lot of that will go into, at least the excess will go into the long-term reserve to fund these future projects such as the windows and et cetera. Now the confusing.
At about 100,000 after the 50,000 contribution.
Correct.
Okay, just so people understand.
Wait, sorry, before we go down there to the capital stuff,
The underworld.
yeah, before we go to that section, what's 53 R&M other? It looks like it was like, or maybe I'm.
It's just a place we throw like miscellaneous repairs, stuff that doesn't really have a category. It's just kind of, something that's not categorized. So this year in there we have, for example, a place you really couldn't categorize this, but we had an electrical closet on the outside of the building that needed to be rebuilt. So there's not really a line item that we use for it. So we just put that in the miscellaneous category.
Gotcha. So you just like to, because like relative to year to date, it's really high, but I guess it's better to have that like.
We've always had a kind of a catch-all category of, we usually allot 15,000 of miscellaneous repairs.
Okay.
I don't necessarily like to put things in there. I usually like to categorize them for what they are, but it's there for whatever reason it may be.
So that's repairs and maintenance?
That's R&M is repairs and maintenance.
Okay.
But that category, which is 7569, is the catch-all, miscellaneous repairs category.
Okay.
Contingency.
Yeah, contingency, yeah.
Yeah, you might actually call it R&M contingency, but yeah. Okay, so that's very good news without a rent increase. Now, as I said, looking at the capital budget, you have some money to start putting into it in order to be able to make ends meet. So continue on to that, I guess, at this point.
Sure.
We pretty much discussed it, but go ahead again.
Are into the capital budget. So some items that we used, like so far this year, we've done about 5,000 in carpet replacement. I'm expecting about the same. We're actually using a new carpet vendor, which is more inexpensive, and actually has been giving us a lot better service. Appliance replacements, we kind of budgeted about, I think it was 6,000 last year, budgeting about 7,500 this year, which is about three more appliances than normal. On average, every appliance is between $500 to $600.
Is that enough new appliances? 3 only?
That's 3 additional to what we already budgeted. So that gives us about 12 appliances.
Okay, but each apartment, when the vacancy needs a turnover of appliances, is what? 3 appliances?
Yeah.
So it's 4 renovations. Just again, understanding what it means to the number.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds like the right amount. What do we do on a renewal? So the board understands about appliances.
In terms of when we renovate?
Well, someone does a renewal, do they get new appliances?
No.
So
we typically only do new appliances upon renovation, or if they are no longer repairable. What we've been doing actually lately is some repairs are costing more than the actual replacement of an appliance, so we're just getting them a new stove or fridge.
And should we be budgeting on the appliances for, given the age of most of them, for more than what we're budgeting now? And as a capital item to make sure, maybe we, again, you folks think about whether or not you want to say, okay, look, all the appliances that are more than 10 years old, let's get them changed now. Something like that, rather than saying that when someone gets a new apartment, they get new appliances. If they're getting a renewal, they may have to live with a 10-year-old range if it's working. That's really been what we've been doing. Anyone want to comment on that?
Yes.
Okay, Rick, I think I just want to make sure I understand this like really high level. So, the top part makes sense to me, and I jotted down, the surplus based on the new calculations. So when I look down at the bottom, capital budget, and I look under everything proposed, line 70 through 84, in the 2021 draft column, that totals to 256,500, right? And
Okay, and I think I know where you're going. That does not go against the operating budget above. Doesn't go against the income that you see from there. It goes against the reserves that we have. So we now have about a little under 600,000 in reserves. I think about 150 of that, if I remember, should be kept for operations. So, you're talking about maybe 400,000 that could be used towards capital work. I'm using round numbers. And those items would be applied against that expense rather than the income from rents. And in addition, the income from rents is going to add an amount to that, at least 50, and maybe with the surplus, 100 or 150. So that's the capital planning I'm talking about, which is those expenses will be draining the capital fund, which will be needing money for windows later on, and other things we haven't talked about maybe.
Yeah. So the top half, the top half is your day-to-day operating budget, and the bottom is your long-term big project budget. So we have an accountant that we call HP, or Homix Park. So there's a financial for that, and then there's an HP cap, which is your capital, accounts. We have a checking account for them. So, we do manage both sides, but there, for many years there hasn't been much activity in the capital because a lot of it's just paid out of the operating, because the complex does generate a gross profit every year if all goes well. But yeah, and this is just a separate budget to show like these are capital improvement items we have planned to perform, and then there's projections on next year's projects if they do go as planned.
Okay, so I think I just jotted down a few notes, and thank you, Rick. The high level was helpful, but headline is at the end of this year, we'll have 600 in reserve. We have to keep 150 of that for operations. So there's essentially 450K in a capital fund that can be allocated. If we were like, let's do everything under the, capital budget, that would be 250K out of the 450 that is in that account. Is that correct? Just like super duper duper high level, because I'm trying to orient myself on that.
Yes, just don't hold the 150 to me. There's a requirement in our agreement with the town as to how much that has to be. But in high level, that's exactly how it works. Yeah.
Okay, so that sort of just parentheses is like TBD if that's the right amount that needs to be kept in reserve.
Are you talking about what you're putting in the minutes? No.
I guess for the minutes and my own edification.
For your understanding, it is to be determined.
Okay.
If I could go into my file drawer here and determine it, but it's a fixed amount that we've agreed to keep a minimum of a certain amount in an operating reserve. And
Rick, I think it's between 20 and 25%.
I think it's 180,000.
180. I was close at 150. Yeah.
In what, the operating?
Yeah.
The operating reserve contingencies, 180,000.
I think it was much lower, but okay.
Okay.
We can check the memorandum.
Reserve
That's what we'll have to do.
Yeah, 20% of the reserve, and then it's the capital reserve is 180,000. Shall be no less than.
Yeah, it's misnomered in the MOU. Steve kind of came up with crazy titles for it, but the lower amount is the operating reserve and the other is the
Is the capital reserve, right?
capital. Yeah. Okay, so now that you understand that, I hope you understand that better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. So what we were talking about is one of the, and you know, what you put in as against the reserve and what you put in as a cost against operations sometimes is a very fine line that is usually left to the accountants to decide, but on as to what's capital and what's not capital. But it's also a board decision as to really where you want to take the funds from. You're not making an accounting decision as to what to label it. You're making a decision as to whether you want to take it out of operations or take it out of the capital reserve. And if you take something like appliances, you're going to say, okay, if we do two, if right now we've been taking appliances and saying we're doing 2 here, 3 there, small amounts, you could make them against the operating reserve. They don't have to go against the capital reserve, depending on how you want to do your budgeting, or at the end of the year, where you want to charge it, based on where the funds are. But if you're going to say, okay, we're going to take $50,000 and replace all the current ranges because they're all getting very old, then that's really should be a capital reserve, no question about it. So I hope that's also helpful in understanding the bigger picture.
Richard, that was perfect explanation.
Thank you. And I think that comes back to what I was saying is, do you want to be, is somebody, is that you, Sal, at your house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay.
So on appliances, you might consider, and Nuno, maybe this is an assignment again of, you know, what are we looking at in terms of really old appliances? Should we do a major replacement now or not?
I think we started that discussion, and the cost savings, if we were doing in bulk, wasn't that large. But let's see what the inspection reports come out as, if they're, you know, appliances are in dire need or how old they are. And that might be a better sign of, you know, I've been in probably most of those apartments by now. A lot of them are old, but in good condition. And, you know, we'll see. I'll let you know how it kind of pans out.
Yeah, one of the things that I just want to, I know your hand's up, Diana, and maybe, and it just sounds like it's not a problem, but one of the killers in the world are dirty stovetops that, because they don't burn cleanly, put off a lot of carbon monoxide and kill people. So, or get headaches and get sick. I've been in a lot of places where people have, so anyway, make sure on the inspections that maybe you're doing that already. That, and I don't want a lot of old gas ranges around that are not burning cleanly and getting people sick. That's why I raise it. Diana, where'd you go?
Yeah. So I was just going to say, you know, in the interest of kind of moving forward on either approving the capital budget or not, of the total budget, you know, of proposed capital expenditures, over 50% of it is the gas pipe replacement. And from what I can tell from Nuno, that's not optional. Like, that's a safety issue. We already had an issue with the gas leak, you know, that one apartment. Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, we basically have to do that. Like, that's not like, do we want to put it off? Like, that has to be done for safety reasons. So like, once you take out, like, that's over 50% of the capital expenditures. I think that might help orient us around the rest of it. But Nuno, is that correct?
Well, it's not something I would ignore. It's just something that we're aware of. I don't want to be held liable, but it's something that should be addressed after the heating season, and should be done in incremental phases, done building by building. Basically, there's 6 buildings left. That's about 6 weeks of the summer that a plumber will be at the property swapping out gas pipes, just in time for, heating season once again. And we'll do it where they don't lose power or gas or hot water for the day. We'll do it kind of in the way they did the other one, where it's as quick as possible. We won't shut the whole building off. It'll be one apartment shut off between these hours onto the next one the next day. So it'll be done in a methodical and clear fashion, so to eliminate any kind of hiccups. But yeah, that is probably not only because it's major and we've had loss of life at the complex before, we want to avoid that. That's something that should be definitely has our attention.
I mean, I would vote to let's do, like, me personally, I definitely think let's do the gas pipe replacement. Like I feel pretty strongly we should do that. I know it's a huge number, but
I take
No,
that.
absolutely. We have to get that done. So that needs to be a priority.
So as
Going into heating
But
season now.
approval is, we're just going over the budget. The approval is for you guys,
No,
when you
Sal,
present the,
let me interrupt you, Sal, on that. I think there's no reason we couldn't approve doing that gas line replacement next summer at this meeting. It just has to be then part of the budget you put together. And
Yeah, why would we put it off? If there's agreement, we want to do it. So let's just confirm that.
Well, I think we discussed it and we had the 3 proposals the last meeting. And I think we said that one proposal was the person who already did it was the lowest and we should proceed, but it will obviously be approved in the future. But when we had that meeting, it's already cold. It was too close to heating season and you can't really do it right now. I mean, it's just prep work. I mean, it's you got to go to the town, get permits. You have to work with building inspector, who's actually great. But it's something that should be done with some lead time.
so I think, and I again looked at the minutes. I don't remember this last meeting saying that we approved it. So let's make sure, let's do it this meeting. And let's have the minutes indicate that we recognize the importance, but it for reasons of the time it'll take to do the planning, we need to do it after the heating season. But again, for the purposes of the board and saying we did the responsible thing, I think I think it should be approved.
Why is, sorry.
No,
so is this unanimously approved? Like, or I just want to make sure I'm capturing it correctly in the.
I don't know. Did any more discussion wanted? Sal, did you have a problem with approving it now?
no, not at all. I mean,
Unanimous.
we haven't gone over the estimates really. We do have, we're just going to approve the project basically, and then people are going to look into the estimates and so forth, and you'll make a decision who's going to do it. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, why don't we have that as part of the motion? Very good. That
Okay,
That makes sense.
contractor and the price to be determined.
right.
Right.
Okay.
Very good addition. All right, yeah. Anything else on the capital stuff?
Sure. So the deck is in there for the summer. The steel railings and step repairs, that's there. That's gonna be a summer project as well. As you can see in that capital budget, we blew our apartment turnover budget out of the water. By the end of this year, it's probably gonna be around 26,000. And then I made some notes. There's a lot more turnover in this year, and I know of 3 possible vacancies happening in 2021. You can tell me well in advance, so it's good to plan. Yeah, that's about it. And I have the ejector system in there, which, as I said, is going to be completed and paid for. And I had a discussion with Sal earlier this morning. Since we pretty much took all of these funds out of operating, I probably need some cash from the capital accounts to be transferred back into operating to kind of pay us back, since we are kind of running a little tight. At this time last year, you're yelling at me there was too much money in the accounts. Now there's not enough money in the accounts.
Right.
So
How much do you need? And this is important for all the board,
So so everyone can kind of memorialize this. I think if I can get 25,000 for the one building of gas pipe, which is 25,000, plus the $23,070 for the backup power for the sewer pumps. And if I can get 11,900 for the deck repair and installation and flashing project, which is a little under 60,000, that should be enough to get me through the end of the year.
I didn't get that, Nuno. Like, I didn't get all what it was for. So if you can just literally shoot that to me in an email, so I don't.
In the email I sent at 6:56 p.m.
Okay, perfect.
And then the bottom, capital needs.
Yes, and
The reason that we need to do this is, and just let me interject here. I just want the board to know the amount of money that, if you all agree, that I'm going to transfer, from our capital account to Gramerton Management's operating account to replenish what they spend out of their operating account. And I'm saying this because October, Rick and I are retired from the board as of October 30th. Rick and I are signatories with Wells Fargo to be able to transfer the funds. That responsibility is going to have to go to two individuals on the board. And so the board has to figure out who wants to have that responsibility for the funds. Okay. But I just didn't want to transfer a large amount of money just before I retired from the board. So just to kind of, take
Right.
the focus,
So, Sal, do you have a checkbook in your house?
Yeah.
What do you have?
No checkbook. It's all done with Wells Fargo, but you need to have authorization. You'll call them, indicate what you want, you email them, so there's a trail and so forth, and so the money can be kind of moved over.
All
But
right.
Rick and I shouldn't be on it any longer after October 30th.
yes,
Well, there's only 3 of us to choose from,
Mhm.
Sabrina.
well,
No,
Oh.
Nancy had already reached out to me. I don't know, Diana, if she had reached out to you, but then she didn't follow up with anything on it. So I don't know where it stands.
Oh. So Sabrina has to talk to Nancy about that.
no,
Choice is up to you as to which two of the three of you wish to take the responsibility. And then I don't know who you've been talking to. If you talk to Nancy about the actual transfer of the paperwork, I can find that out tomorrow, as long as I know which two of you.
Okay.
I have all the paperwork.
Oh, you have
Sabrina,
it? So you
I-
guys operate, you are independent in this regard. You guys can do it without anybody else participating.
Okay. All right.
Well, sorry,
Oh.
Sabrina, when you guys appoint people to the board, do you appoint people into like positions, or do
No.
you just like, and then we choose ourselves, like, how does
You choose yourselves. We appoint 5 equal members, and you choose the secretary, the treasurer, the chair, which is really all you need.
Gotcha.
Well, if Diana wants to stay as a secretary, I guess Melissa and I can do that.
Yep,
Just
that's
fine.
fine. I'm happy
Yeah,
to stay
okay.
as secretary. I feel
All
like
right, so that's it. So that's what we're gonna do.
Harry, you just have to sign your paperwork, because you can't be the.
I know, I'm just saying, yeah, okay, I will do that. As soon as I get it, I will sign it and bring it over there.
On the discussion of the Wells Fargo accounts, Sal, did you speak with the accountant this summer? I think we have some an investment in like a foreign country or something, possibly Canada, and I don't know if we can. Did he
Not
ever
that
bring it up?
I'm not aware of that,
Yeah,
I mean,
before you leave,
we may get,
wanna,
if we may have a CD from Toronto Dominion or something of that
I
nature.
think so yeah, he asked me about that if you were aware. I don't think as a government entity we can have sort of that kind of investment. He said he was going to bring it up to you. I don't know if he ever
Okay.
did, but maybe
No,
before
he
you
never
leave, if
did.
we can-
I'll follow up on it.
All right, I'll follow up on it too,
Mhm.
all right,
when
so,
I'm authorized.
yeah, I get, all right, so I need also to know who the officers are. I have some files to transfer, et cetera. Have you, as a 3-person board, made decisions on who your officers are?
Can I just raise, and I just need to bring this up, and, this is nothing at all to do with, Barry's appointment in particular, but this, when I logged on to this meeting, was the first I heard that anybody new had been appointed. So then to put Diane and I in a position, and Barry, to have that conversation and make that decision in this meeting feels very just not a great way to get started off with the newly constituted board. We need to be able to have that conversation, and to not even know that that was coming until showing up on this
All right.
Zoom.
All right,
Not
Melissa,
cool.
Melissa, you and I will figure it out.
No, I know we will, Barry. I'm just saying in terms of, if the appointment was made, and I just was emailing with Nancy on October 21st, that was 5 days ago, or 6 days ago. I don't know why no one would have notified me about that. I had no idea.
Let me just say as a suggestion here that, it can be done in a few weeks from now. The three of you should, and maybe I don't know if Nancy's about to make any other appointments, maybe there's a additional board person, but I, for one, operating with three people is a mistake and too small a group, but it's the minimum, and you have the minimum, and it can be legal. But if you don't have to make that decision today at all, we
Can I just
are.
say something, Rick, as
Yeah.
it relates to that? You don't have to make the decision today. And I'm sorry that you didn't know. Historically, the way this works is the board makes an appointment, tells the chair, and the chair tells the committee. I assume Rick was intending to tell you this evening. Sorry.
Yeah, but to find out on the spot, Sabrina,
I'm
that's
sorry about that, but the process is that we make the appointment, we tell the chair shares with the board. So,
This just for my record here, I learned about it when Barry wrote me a note and said, let's talk, because you suggested, Sabrina.
happened all at once.
I did not hear from.
However, be that as it may, the appointment had to be made very rapidly. Barry was in our sights. We thought he had exactly the right qualifications all around for this board. And so we asked him and he agreed, and we appointed him, and we needed to do it as rapidly as we did, because without a quorum, you can't make decisions. And we knew that we were in a position that many, many decisions had to be made quite rapidly.
I don't think that's the issue of his qualifications, Sabrina, at all. I just think just not knowing that any of that occurred is the issue.
No, it's fine. Sal, if you need to send books and records, you can send them to me after.
The only other thing I remind you is that you guys can't really sort of all three of you talk offline, because once you're three and you're talking business, you have to have noticed meetings. So I don't know if you guys want to stay on this meeting together afterwards and, have the conversation, or if you want to schedule another meeting shortly, but the law says the three of you talking about the business of the housing authority has to be done in a notice and public purview. So,
and Sabrina, if I can, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but I do have kids. I need to get to bed. Well, that's the thing. I mean, and I get that everybody's busy and there's been a lot of upheaval, but had we been able to have a conversation with Barry before he was appointed, we would have been able to have a more informal conversation, and that could have occurred.
In fairness, it happened for the board all very rapidly as well.
No, I get it, but there's been 6 days since that appointment was made between then and now. That's almost a whole week.
Sabrina, okay, I'm getting out of this. This is part of, makes me even happier about getting out. But I suggest that you determine now for a new meeting for the three of you when you want to meet and discuss what you're going to do about the board's officers. And it's a short meeting, maybe it's not a short meeting, and you can have conversations, but not the three at the same time.
I think the banking is probably the most important decision to me.
The banking is one that does need to be made right away, because
Yeah, go get it, honey. I'll talk to you in a few
I don't
minutes.
know if
Can't spend
I
any time.
don't know,
I'll be out
Sal,
in a few minutes.
how Sal you feel. I mean, I'm not even sure we can get off the account without putting somebody else on the account.
Right.
We'll stay.
Basically, I have all the applications that we need. Rick and I have to write a letter to Wells Fargo that we're leaving the board, and then.
Could you help Nate get in bed, and I'll be right up?
And we have applications that I'll give to the two individuals that the board decides they want to have that responsibility.
Well,
Okay.
I think Melissa and I will do it, although I can't say that right now until next week.
Well,
Okay, Melissa?
We'll get you all signed up rapidly, Barry.
There you go. Okay. All right, fine. Sabrina's taking care.
So, sorry,
Okay.
is Steve also officially leaving on the 30th?
He's already gone. He resigned effective immediately when he sent his letter to Nancy.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
He didn't let us know that either.
Okay.
I didn't know either, honestly. So, you know, this is all, you know, swirling.
You've been great. Right. So anything else that anyone feels they want to talk about on the budget, or Nuno's got his instructions?
Well,
Yeah,
I have, well, Diane, you can go first, but I like to make a few points before I.
Yeah. No, specifically about the budget. So just so I'm memorializing it properly. My understanding is that we all got aligned on, you know, like the top part of it, the rent, and I'm clear that we decided not to make a change. The expenses, that was all approved. And right now we have officially approved the gas pipe replacement. It's sort of TBD, all of the finer points on that. But there's several other important capital projects that need to be discussed and, you know, hopefully approved, because some of them look pretty important. But we're putting a pin in that until the next meeting when we talk about them more. Is that accurate?
That last piece is what I was going to say is where we're at. Is Nuno's going to do a kind of a spreadsheet that, or like a budget that shows the capital income, the capital opening balance, the capital income, and the planned expenditures. And you'll see where you have deficits or maybe enough money to do the work. And then you can approve the items based on knowing how much money you have year by year to do what, rather than doing them piecemeal. Does that answer your question, Diane?
Yeah, so basically, like, we're gonna have a follow-up meeting on capital expenditures that's gonna have a little bit more architecture around what's upcoming, and then we can look at it a bit more holistically, but that should be kind of soon, because I'm assuming we need, like, the stuff we're gonna do next year, like, there's not that much time left in the year, like, I assume we need to, like, approve it, and so you can start rolling, right?
Yes, I hope you have a meeting in a month at least, if not before, to deal with the finalization of the operating budget as well as the capital plan for the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years. That's what's needed. Okay. Nuno, you had some more you wanted to finish?
Yes. When you guys are finalizing your board positions and your kind of responsibilities to the board, it was a pleasure always working with Rick and Sal. They were always a phone call away. There's a lot that goes on at the complex that needs kind of attention right away. So if I can get either you guys want to all be notified or you want to appoint one point person, obviously we'll still have, you know, meetings where we'll update you on what's happened in between meetings, but it's always efficient to have that kind of a point person or a day-to-day operational person like Rick and Sal were. So if you guys can kind of formalize how you wish to kind of function with management, that'd be ideal. So there's no lapse. I mean, a lot of the stuff you can't wait between meetings. I mean, a lot of stuff has to get attention right away. And I don't personally like acting without knowledge of, you know, the board knowing what I'm doing. So if you guys can kind of formalize a plan, how you guys wish to operate going forward, that's ideal.
Very appropriate question.
Yeah, and can I make a suggestion? I think what we really need to do is have an interim meeting where the business, you know, we'll have to publicize it, like you said, Sabrina, as a formal meeting, but we need some kind of interim meeting in the next couple of weeks to go through how we're going to administer the board. You know, that's going to be kind of the topic. And I don't know that you need to necessarily be in that meeting, but for certain, Barry, Diana, Sabrina, and I do.
Yeah.
So I think we should set a meeting date now, probably, or, you know, or over email is probably okay for that purpose, but to just talk about how that's going to happen.
So you either can set it now if you can agree, or somebody's got to take the lead and put a meeting together.
Why don't we just look at calendars now?
So the people who are going to be on that are you, me, Barry, and Sabrina, and the purpose of that meeting is to talk about roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, I would also we can classify it as a reorganization meeting is how I would look at that.
Okay.
And you don't even need me. I mean, I always try to come to your meetings, but it's.
I think you should participate though, Sabrina. I think there really needs to be better communication between our board and the town board. So I really think it's important that you participate in that.
I try to be at every one of your meetings.
So maybe set it for 2 weeks or something like that.
I will tell you, I'm always available.
That's awesome, Barry.
Should we look at the 10th of November?
I can't do the 10th.
The 11th, 12th?
11th I can do. Yep.
And I don't work, so I could do it even during the day.
I
So,
can't,
I definitely can't do it during the day.
all right.
I can't be there on the 11th.
The 11th, well, I don't know if
Holiday,
it's Veterans
holiday.
Day or maybe want to go with the 12th, just I don't know, just because
Yeah.
I know there's that day. Does that not work for you, Diana?
Sorry, I
No,
can't.
let's go with the 11th. That's fine. Should we do the 11th at 7:30?
That's a holiday.
Yeah. It's the evening, right? I
Your
mean, is the
kids will
board,
be
is the
on.
town board, the town hall closed, Sabrina, on the 11th?
Your kids are
You're
out
not
of
gonna
school.
be in the town hall
Well-
anyway, so
What's that?
you're not gonna be in the town.
All right, if you want to, I don't care.
Well, I think it depends whether the town's open for business or not, Sabrina, because we don't want to hold a meeting on a day that the town's not open, probably.
Why? Okay, whatever. So,
And it is open because the planning board is meeting, which is why I can't join.
Oh, okay. So, but if it doesn't work for you, then we shouldn't do that. Should we go to the next week then? It looks like that's a tough week. Maybe 17th, 18th, or 19th?
Why don't we look at next week, Melissa?
I can't do next week's a really busy week for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the week of the 16th is, I can do Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Let's do Tuesday, the 17th,
I have a meeting that night.
Wednesday, the 18th,
I have a meeting that night. Town board.
Thursday, the 19th.
How about Monday? Monday is the only night that
Okay,
week.
let's do Monday then. Let's do the 16th.
Okay, Mary,
yes, I'm good. I got it. I'm writing it in.
at 7:30.
Yes. Who's hosting on Zoom?
So the way that we've done it in the
Oh,
past,
LMC. LMC.
the way that we've done it in the past, but this is open to, and should we let Nuno go? You look tired, Nuno.
No, I'm good. I just have to make one last thing, a comment.
Okay, make one last comment and then we don't need to detain you for our scheduling.
Oh, man.
Go on.
Okay, well, all right. So my last comment is I got a note from Steve Altieri this afternoon saying we're having issues with our sanitation. We've been having issues with our sanitation for quite some time now. We've done everything in our power to not only distribute recycling memos, recycling guides. We've labeled every single dumpster. I've now had the super at one point do the garbage sorting every day, and now he's doing it twice a day. We're still having issues with whether it's intentional, which I'm assuming it is, of people intentionally sorting, putting in cardboard with plastics, putting in plastic bags in the dumpster, whatever it may be. For the life of me, I can't get the tenants to cooperate. I can't enforce it because I don't have a camera there. I don't know who is doing it. It's probably a small population of the complex. And now Steve Altieri is basically stating that if the situation continues, the Homix itself and the joint sanitation is going to be fined. They're looking for alternatives. It's a small fine. It's about $100. It's happened in the past, but over the last few months, it's happened quite a bit where, people are just not caring. There's a lot more people that are using cardboard boxes due to Amazon shipments, whatever it may be, but they're throwing it in with their plastic and vice versa. It seems to be happening right before the collection is happening because Louis is literally sorting there at 8 a.m. and at 6 p.m. like clockwork. And I've done everything to deter it. I've had custom signs put up. And now Steve is now suggesting that they're no longer going to collect our garbage if this continues, and we're going to put bins in everyone's garage. One of the problems is not everyone has a garage. And B, a lot of the elderly probably can't drag their garbage bins from their garage into the street and then collect them later on. And another issue is rodents. You're basically having garbage bins in your garage, which is not good. Relatively, we have never had a rodent issue at Homix, and this would certainly spark that. So I don't know where to proceed. I've done everything in my power. I've spoken to the foreman. I've had the foreman call me of any issue so we can correct it right on the spot. At this point, I'm thinking it's got to be someone intentionally doing it. And just for everyone on the board to understand, I don't personally think the people on our sanitation route get along with our superintendent. They have refused pickup of the dumpsters over one plastic bag in a dumpster, which is a little absurd in my opinion. And they've gotten into words over it. And I think that relationship is kind of deteriorating, which is starting to lead to this situation that we're in now. It's all fresh news. I haven't really had much time to think about it other than the alternative is not feasible. It can't happen. And there's no logistical way of it
I
occurring.
have a suggestion. How about a capital expenditure for a surveillance system? You know, that may be a deterrent, you know, to someone.
But I feel like that, I mean, well, the question, I have a couple questions just on that, Nuno. Is it your suspicion that it is one offender, or do you think it's a broad problem is a question? My second question is if you think it is specific, like a personality issue between Louis and the sanitation folks, because understanding that would help us come up with the resolution that works best.
Well, my theory is it's probably a handful of people. There's a lot of people at the complex who don't like Louis for various reasons. And they're probably doing this intentionally to sabotage him. I'm pretty sure they get, they probably get pleasure by seeing Louis sort through garbage all day. There's people who call in anonymously to the office and say, hey, he's sorting through the garbage, and chuckle and hang up. I mean, there's, some people who have that in the complex. There's no way of fixing that.
Can I just, sorry to keep interrupting, but I do have to get my kids to bed, so sorry, I'm trying to race through a little. My thought, and this is, probably be surprising coming how I usually feel about, my other kind of comments on the tenants and money issues. But in this particular case, I would maybe suggest that we consider putting out a notice that if there's a fine, it's going to be distributed, and everybody's going to have to pay. I don't know if that is effective, but, it shouldn't be the housing authority that's responsible for that. It shouldn't be Louis that's responsible for that. If you, and then maybe there's more collective surveillance actually amongst neighbors to make sure that everything is getting put where it belongs, so that everybody.
That was in my recycling memo that I sound at every summer. Every summer I give you a detailed recycling guide, what goes in what bin, what is considered recyclable, what's not. I give them a very thorough, detailed list. I even include the towns from the joint sanitation's guide. They have it all. I mean, they.
No, I get that. What I'm suggesting is that it's clear. There's a notice that's like we have a problem.
My memo, that you will be fined if you're and.
But not individually. I mean, it's like a collective fine that, if our property gets fined because we're not recycling properly, and the town fines us, that there's going to be a surcharge to the rent for every person in the complex to pay for it, because you won't be able to determine who the offender is, right?
Let me just suggest that you already have leverage by saying to all the residents that the town is threatening, and use whatever words you want, to fine us and require that the garbage be kept in garages, which will lead to other problems. Tell them the consequences of continuing to act this way, and that fine would be distributed, and you all each be responsible for keeping your garbage clean and taking it to the front. I think if people heard that, they would maybe gather up together. And although I agree with Sal, put a surveillance camera at the garbage dump and it'll help watch the back there anyways, probably, and it'll certainly be a deterrent.
How much would that be in terms of an investment, do you think?
There's by the way, there's no real access to electricity by either dumpster enclosures. So it's not inexpensive. In the past, we have discussed adding electrical power to Louis' shed back there, but it never really came to fruition. It does require.
You could probably pull it from the corner.
No, you have to trench. I've had a long discussion with our electrician. You have to trench into that area.
All right, then.
You can't put a camera up right on the building there. That's right adjacent to it. I mean, that may be. I don't know. Maybe that.
Well, possibly it's Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, we can think about that. Problem is, where do you wire it? Is it going to be, where's you going to connect the DVR to? It becomes very complicated when you're not adding really a central security system.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Then you're also asking Louis to have to monitor that. And then once you find out who it is, then you have to figure out how you're going to discipline like the offenders. I sort of feel like, a first pass at being very clear about this problem and not being gentle about it.
I mean,
and
we
what the
have
consequences-
caught a handful, and Louis takes a picture of the box or whatever it may be. And it's tough because some people are just throwing out plastic bottles or whatnot. But if you have mail, like paper mail, like you can sort of identify that's your garbage. He's been calling them saying, "Hey, please, just so you know." But as I said, there's a malicious bunch there that may be using this. And I think by sending out a letter saying, "Hey, we're about to lose our garbage," they think, "Oh, Louis might get in trouble over this," and they're going to get even worse. I mean, there's.
But is there a way to take this off of Louis though? Because it sounds like it's become like, and make it, this is coming from the people who are riding the property and.
I don't. I mean, I'm not blaming Louis. I had a rough discussion with Louis about this because even at one time a day, garbage should be sorted. And unfortunately, I had to make him do it twice. I don't want to lose our garbage service, and he spends literally an hour a day, I mean, 8 of his workday sorting through garbage at 8 in the morning at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, I feel for him now, but I don't really blame him for it. But there's someone in there or a handful of people there that are not making this an easy. It's an issue.
So I think you've got a whole bunch of issues here, but one of which is affecting his morale and his work.
Yeah.
And the other is figuring out how to deal with that tension between that group that's against him.
Mm-hmm.
But initially, I go back to what I suggested and was in Melissa's thought that group pressure by sending out the kind of letter I'm talking about might be the best solution at this point that you could do quickly.
Okay.
And if others agree with that, at least you could try that in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I don't know how people feel, but I think we should enumerate sort of all the specific consequences, and we can maybe at our next meeting, we can just add that to our agenda and go through it, and we can think about that and not do it on the spot. But, I do think a monetary penalty is something we should consider because that's pretty motivational.
Okay, so what I'll do this week is I will send out a letter again with recycling guidelines. I'll throw in a little bit of a threat of the group either losing its garbage or getting continuously fined. And let's see how it works out. I'll ask Steve for some leeway. I don't know if he'll give it to us. He's probably getting pressure from the county, so I understand his position. And I've already spent time dealing with the DPW and the foreman, trying to let them know, listen, it's not Louis, it's people here, but there's some bad blood there as well. So it sucks to be in the middle, but I'm trying my best to kind of keep the peace, and we'll see what happens, and I'll keep you guys informed.
Okay, you got a date? I guess you set a date for the meeting and a time, and Diana is going to set up with LMC video to get it done. And then you could talk at your meeting about whether you want to use LMC video going forward. You don't have to use them, but for this next meeting, as I am finishing my chairing, go ahead and do it with LMC and get the meeting done. And decide whether you need Nuno at the meeting. And then Sabrina, got something you wanted to say?
I just want to say to you two gentlemen, thank you very, very much for years and years of tremendous service to the town and to the Homics and to the people who live in the complex. And welcome to Barry and to Melissa and Diana. Thank you for your continued patience in a time of more than usual upheaval.
Rick and Sal, you guys, I have your number and we are going to be calling you. So
That's good. It's all right.
I'm not saying goodbye because I already boop, 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 boop. I have you in my cell phone. You can expect to hear from us. So thanks for, being on this with me for a year, but I'm sure you'll hear from us many a time.
Well, it's been pleasure in this last short period of time working with Melissa and Diana. And I hope we can continue to know each other, because as on a people level, I've enjoyed that. Sabrina, you've been terrific as a liaison. I really, I'd give you the prize for the best. And thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Everybody, take it away. You've got a great project, and where Sal and I have talked about how proud we are and pleased we are to leave you in good financial and fairly good physical shape, if not a good physical shape, but you do have an older project now, but you have the money to deal with it. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Barry, you and I will make sure you get all signed up ASAP.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.